I'm going to be talking about another idea in an earlier video I made, which is the idea that the universe is self-preserving but not self-generating. And the first most important thing to look at there is the fact that the universe is not self-generating. And what that means is that it doesn't, that it has a start, it is subject to something, and it can change. If something is self-generating, then it has to have no start. It has to be not subject to anything else, because everything comes from it. And it cannot change, because there's no reason for it to change. So the universe isn't self-generating because it has a start.
Good morning. You have been in suspension for
because eventually it has to have a start. Because there's no reason for anything to exist if it doesn't have a start. And you need a reason for something to exist for it to actually exist. It's a matter of causation. So it's not, you can't just have, oh well, it just so happens to be that there's a universe and it exists for no reason, because there must be a reason for the reason this universe to exist. So it has a start at some point. But we don't know exactly necessarily when that is, but that doesn't necessarily matter either. The other thing that we know is that it is subject to something else because it didn't set its own rules. And we know that because it hasn't set any rules in a very long time. If it was able to set its own rules, then there would have to be a sentience setting it rules, and there isn't. The other thing is, within this universe, the other thing is that it would have to not change. And we know this is the biggest problem because it does change all the time. I mean, the very fact that I'm talking includes changes. Or playing a game. But it is self-preserving, which means it doesn't self-destruct and it follows the rules set out for it. It is subservient to something that has caused it at some point. We don't know what point that is, but something has caused it, and it doesn't destroy itself, so it preserves itself in that sense. So the way that we can see that is the energy cannot be created or destroyed. At some point it was created, because at some point we got all of this energy, because we actually have quite a lot of it. But at the same time, while at some point it was created, it is no longer being created. You'll never see that. You'll never see energy just being created by the universe. It can change, it can move around, it can change form and all that, but it cannot be created, nor can it be destroyed. So it's self-preserving. So if that's the end of that, it's just it's self-preserving, but is definitely not self-generating. Which means we need to have some form of generating reason. Because there's a difference between there not being a meaning behind something and there not being a reason for something. Everything must have a reason. And certainly this universe would have to have a reason, because this universe is subject to logic. And if it wasn't subject to logic, then maybe this argument wouldn't work. But it is subject to argument, so this is subject to logic, so the argument does still work. This is Portal 2, by the way. We're busy docking. Dock is somewhere down there, but Wheatley isn't very clever. But anyway, there's that.